While Europe struggles to handle the intensifying migrant crisis, some think Israel could be part of the solution. The latest political battle in Israel began with opposition leader and the head of the Zionist Union, Isaac Herzog, calling on the government to open its doors to the Syrian refugees.
Over the weekend, I've spoken to a few leaders. One of them is Kamal Abwani. He's a freedom fighter, a Syrian freedom fighter who is now in exile in Sweden. And he has begged with his allies for an international emergency conference to deal with the humanitarian crisis in Syria. And as part of this, I'm offering that all nations partake in the conference, including Israel.
But Herzog's idea wasn't accepted well by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who issued the calmest reaction among government ministers, rejecting Herzog's proposal.
Israel is not indifferent to the human tragedy of the refugees from Syria and Africa. We have already devotedly cared for approximately 1,000 wounded people from the fighting in Syria, and we have helped them to rehabilitate their lives. But Israel is a small country, a very small country, that lacks demographic and geographic depth. Therefore, we must control our borders against both illegal migrants and terrorism.
And indeed, Israel is widening its protection on the borders, constructing a fence on its eastern border with Jordan, which will stretch from the south of the country to the north. But can Israel, facing many demographic problems of its own, really accommodate an influx of refugees? According to Herzog, the answer is yes.
Israel will consider taking in a small amount of refugees, a limited amount, for humanitarian purposes, and show that we don't sit idly by. In fact, we are heavily involved in humanitarian efforts in the region, heavily involved in helping Syrian casualties and wounded and families, but I think that we should also be able to take refuge for refugees from Syria if it's needed.
Meanwhile, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas also wants to get involved in the solution, appealing to the UN on Saturday to pressure on Israel to allow Palestinian refugees from Syria and Lebanon to move to the West Bank and the Gaza Strip.